Is it on? Can everyone hear me all right? Okay. Hello everyone. This is a subject that's quite close to my heart. I run a fulfillment centre, and I feel this is what everyone needs to be focused on if you're in e-commerce or if you're in fulfillment. It's all about tailoring the solution. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, my experience, and then we'll go through some facts and things, and I can look at some case studies and explain why it's important. Can you hear okay? So I've been in warehousing for the past 20 years, always in 3PL and fulfillment. Started out really looking after actually supporting automotive production lines, so suppliers overseas, shipping products in, and responding daily to those production line requests. It's actually very similar to fulfillment, very similar demands, it's just higher volume, high pressure if you get it wrong. You'll be surprised how much you have to tailor and customize the solution in those environments, and it's something that translates really well across when you're looking at e-commerce. You have to approach everything and always be looking to adapt. How do you do things better? How do you improve? How can you improve for the end customer? And any question always has to be answered with a yes, and then let's figure out how we're going to actually make that happen in the operation. You'd be quite surprised at the range of activities we get involved in, just as with e-com. It's not just about pick, pack and ship accurately and on time, etc. So back in 2010, my partner and I, Stephen Williams, business partner Stephen Williams, we started our e-com and fulfillment business ourselves, Fidelity. Predominantly started, as I say, with that automotive background, just doing 3PL work for overseas manufacturers. At the same time, though, we started an e-commerce business called Audible Fidelity. No real grand master plan here. Fulfillment's what we knew, and we figured if you could take a hobby and turn it into a business with the e-com side, that's not a bad way to spend your time. I'm sure that's probably familiar to a lot of people. When you start your own business, world's your oyster, you can do what you want. That's what we chose to do. Little did we know, I suppose, that we'd actually got the two pillars fundamental to what's going on today here with a fulfillment business and an e-commerce business, and we learnt a lot. Central to what became central to Audible Fidelity's success in the end was that ability to think of something to do on the website, whether it was personalized packaging, whether it was kitting bundles, add-ons that we were chucking in at the final phase, discount vouchers that were based on what we could see customers were looking at on the website but hadn't perhaps purchased and been able to put those in. They became massively important to us as we were growing on the e-commerce side, and obviously having the warehouse as well, they were one of the same things. So if we wanted to do something, we could just go and make it happen. It was quite straightforward. Just to kind of back up that, what's happened quite recently, these stats probably won't surprise any of you sat here. Obviously, customers are absolutely focused on shipping costs, choice when it comes to shipping. But one of the surprising things is the last stat, really, that 72% of e-commerce customers want a personalized experience. That surprised me. I mean, we'd seen it with Audible, but that really surprised me. We actually sold Audible Fidelity back in 2016, so we had the time to focus fully on fulfillment, but the journey we'd been on with that e-commerce business really sort of honed the mind as to what we needed to do from a fulfillment piece. So from these stats, it's evidently obvious, we need to be looking at tailoring the fulfillment side to match what's going on the website side. So these stats kind of tell their own story. You've got to be able to personalize and come up with things that the customers engage with when they're on your website. We should all be latching onto these stats, I think, and really kind of focusing on what's going on with them. For any brand, as we know, for any brand or e-com retailer, no matter what product you're selling, the market's quite fierce. There will be someone else selling the same product. No matter how exclusive or special it is, there will be someone else selling the same thing. There will be multiple different vendors and ways to go about getting that product, from bricks and mortar stores, obviously TikTok shops, e-commerce, etc. So we all have to look at ways of how do we attract those customers, retain those customers, and I feel personalization and customization are key tools in that armory of being able to keep and retain those customers and get them to come back and buy again from us. With an e-commerce store, I think there are certain advantages you have over, say, like a bricks and mortar store. Obviously, if you walk into a supermarket, the shop doesn't know who you are. You walk in, you've got to go and find what you want. If you can't find it, you'll probably leave. You're not going to get anything personalized that's going to come at you. With an e-com store, especially these days, with the way digital marketing's going, and I'm sure a lot of you are doing this already, but you know so much about the customer even before the customer arrives at your website. You can create dedicated landing pages for them. If they've been on your website before, obviously you know what they've been looking at. You can present them those products. It's very difficult for a physical bricks and mortar store to do the same thing. You walk into Tesco's, the shop doesn't rearrange itself on the fly to present to you exactly what you want in one easy way, or it remembers you were looking at this, so let's put that in front of you when you come in. So e-commerce stores have been doing personalization and customization in a way for a very, very long period of time because they have the ability to. Where I think things fall down is that sometimes isn't then translated to the physical side of things. You end up just getting plain brown box with your product in. You perhaps aren't able to customize things as you might want to on the website because actually, the fulfillment center can't really handle that. They just want to be able to go, I want a box on the shelf, I pick, slap a label on and send it out. So, but I think that's wrong. I think that's the wrong way of going about things. So let me just skip on one more. So just to clarify, when I talk about personalization and customization, what I mean about the differences. Personalization is something that basically the customer's not expecting. It's not something they have to actually or consciously engage with. It just happens. It's the sort of thing that delights the customer. If they open the box and they get a handwritten note saying thank you very much for your purchase, that's personalization with their name on, etc. Customization involves more engagement from the customer with your web store, with your offering, where they're going about their, maybe they can make up kits, bundles, etc. Now, when we had Audible Fidelity, this was obvious to us. I mean, we built, we had kitting and bundle tools. So effectively, I mean, the website sold high-end hi-fi effectively. So a lot of it was recommended to them. Okay, this product would go well with this product, for instance. But allowing them to basically build any kit they could think of. I mean, if anyone spent any time on the Porsche website, they do this incredibly well. I defy you to configure a car and not add some options. It's so, and we found the same thing. The more energy we spent on tailoring that e-commerce platform to allow the customer to choose, give them more choice basically, drove our average basket value up. The next thing that we found that was really powerful, and again, I'm sure a lot of you are doing this already, but it's just to highlight this, was when they got to the basket stage, was to then be going, okay, I can see from what they've got in their basket that actually these products are probably relevant to them, so let's just pop that up just before they go through and purchase. And in the hi-fi world, you need speakers to connect you need speaker cable to connect to your speakers, so simple things like, okay, here's some speaker cable, what length do you want? And they could choose any length they wanted. Doesn't matter what it was, they could choose the termination. So that we saw massive uptake on that. 70% of our customers would go, oh yeah, actually I could do with that, and click it and add it in. So it had a huge effect on our basket value. On the fulfillment side, challenge a fulfillment center to be cutting random lengths of cable for every single order. That's a big challenge. It's not easy to do. I mean, I understand that, but for me, this is absolutely the heart of how we go about e-commerce today. I think the fulfillment center and the e-commerce website need to act as effectively one symbiotic relationship. They need to both be focused on how do we drive the best value and best choice for the customer, because ultimately if the customer buys more, both parties benefit. So it's not a case of just going, that's a bit too challenging, let's just focus on this, maybe you change your packaging or something. It's about doing more than that and going further. So just some ideas on why we customize and personalize. Some of the things that you can do some simple things you can do from a personalization point of view is you can, and these don't take much effort on behalf of the website. This data is already there, but they require a tight relationship with the fulfillment center. Now, obviously, if you're like we were, if you're operating from your garage, take my speaker cable analogy. if you're getting one or two orders a day, spending a bit of time chopping the cables up and terminating them, it's no problem. You start getting a couple of hundred orders a day, it becomes a big challenge. And how are you going to manage that? If you then outsource it to a fulfillment center, you are effectively now capped by their limitations. What are they happy doing? What are they not happy doing? So you end up with a strange scenario where you can, on your website, you can go absolutely crazy when it comes to customization. You can do all sorts on there. As I say, we know so much about the customer these days before they even hit the site that you really can tailor it for them. But then it's not backed up from the physical point of view. It's okay. How do we get that piece so that it's matching this offer we can make on the website itself? And that, for me, that is, being in this industry for so long now, that is at the heart, really, of the crux of how you make this work. You've got the relationship between the fulfillment center and the e-commerce platform needs to be so tightly entwined, because you really want to be going backwards and forwards. E-com website needs to be going, hey, we've had this idea, can you do it? And the fulfillment center needs to be going, let's have a look at that and let's figure out how we make that operationally work. Not, no, we can't do that, that doesn't work for us. And likewise, there are so many things fulfillment centers can do that they should be offering back to the e-commerce websites. So have you thought about, do you want tailored packaging? Do you want us to get different tape, for instance, just with your brand logo on? I mean, there's so many simple things you can do that mean that when that product arrives with the customer, that, wow, this has actually been thought about. So I mean, these are just some simple ideas. Funny enough, in our warehouse, we actually do handwritten thank you notes. So we've got people that on certain pat benches where the handwriting's pretty good, and they can write in handwritten pat notes. So that's probably an extreme example, but it just gives you some idea on the sort of things you can do. So we spoke briefly about packaging solutions. Apologies, we'll skip that. So just gives you an idea whether you supply packaging to the fulfillment center or whether the fulfillment center helps you source packaging that's specific. This is quite an easy way to obviously elevate the brand, ensure that when the customer gets the product, they feel like it hasn't come from some nameless facility, it has come from someone that actually values them as a customer fundamentally. And we spoke, this is just a few examples of why packaging solutions are, I think, quite important and quite an important part of the buying experience for the customer. So the next piece really is talking about customization. So I spoke about, obviously, the experience we had with Audible before we sold it, kitting, bundling, etc. Those are quite powerful tools. Subscription options are really clever, actually. If you can, and I've got an example of this in a moment, if you can tailor your product and have it continually tailored. As I say, I'll show you this in a moment. That's really, really, really powerful. But all the time, it needs the correlation between what's going on your website and what's happening in the fulfillment center. And I keep coming back to this. It shouldn't be a typical, I'm the e-com customer, I'm the fulfillment supplier, I have my limitations, I have my wants and my wishes, and we meet somewhere in the middle. It needs to be, for a successful partnership, and that's what it really needs to be, it needs to be a lot more than that. It needs to be both parties coming up with ideas, because both parties have the same goal of selling more product, of getting more product going through the warehouse. It benefits both. So these guys are just a good example, actually, of they're nothing to do with us, by the way, but these guys are a good example of, I think, taking that to the next level. And some of you may I don't know, maybe customers of theirs, I'm not sure. But they basically sell dog food, not particularly a sexy product, I suppose. They've only really got a handful of different types, but what they're really clever at doing is they really get to understand you and your dog, and then you effectively sign up on a subscription, and they're constantly tailoring that offering for you. Now, from a fulfillment center point of view, there are some challenges here. You're effectively constantly kitting and bundling. You're not just picking one item and slapping a label on it and shipping it out the door. But this is a good example of where, if you work really closely with what's going on, you can actually have some real success with it. This is another example. These guys sell Japanese tableware. This is actually something that we work with. Every one of these tiny components comes in loose, is effectively pre-packed, is effectively kitted exactly to the customer specification. They come. Every bundle comes packed as if it was made specifically for them, with a little note in there, thanking that, John Doe or whatever the customer might be called. Thanks very much for your purchase. Hope you enjoy this, etc. Once you've put the effort into understanding, getting across the operational challenge, it becomes second nature, and it's straightforward, and you're into it. The challenge is obviously just understanding how to make it work operationally and be repeatable. So just to kind of slowly round up, because I realise my time's running out. It's really, really valuable. I keep coming back to this. It's really valuable, and there's some great fulfillment centres out there. To find a fulfillment centre that is able to support you and your level of customization and personalization that you want. We're probably, I suppose, at the extreme end of this, because we do seem to get involved in all sorts of activities, but there are some great guys out there that are doing exactly that. It's for me, it's become at the heart of everything we do as an e-com fulfillment provider. You've got to work in partnership with what's going on from the e-commerce store, and you've got to both be focused on how do we sell more, how do we, and a big part of that is the customization and personalization tools that a lot of you will already be applying on the website, but translating that into the physical package that arrives with the customer, and that's really where picking the right fulfillment center is absolutely crucial, and I think as an industry is the way we should be going. Yeah, that's it for me. Has anyone got any? That man there's got a question.
Hiya, yeah. In terms of how Fidelity differs from perhaps traditional big 3PL suppliers, what do you think are the biggest differences compared to yourselves and, say, a big 3PL of...
So I guess some of it's the background. Having worked for so long in, if you like, automotive side 3PL, which we still do a huge amount of that. In those industries, you have to tailor the solution to not just your client, but the end client as well, and that's how it works. Having the e-com background means that we've not gone down the massive automation route, because we feel it starts to put limitations on what you can do. It starts to limit, okay, I only want boxes of this particular size because this is how my auto store system's set up, or whatever it might be. We're very much more focused on clients that have really quite bespoke needs, because then it means if they're difficult to solve, it means we can put that energy in. That client's not, let's be honest, that client's not going to go anywhere else. If we're doing a good job, it's going to be very difficult to replicate, so it's in our interest. But also, if we can help all of our e-commerce partners basically sell more, we all benefit. So, I mean, today we're involved in all sorts. We do, we have a football shirt e-com store that works out of our Netherlands facility. We've got facilities in the Netherlands, UK, and the US, and they sell. If you've got a 5-side team or something, you can go and get your shirts, and you can have all your names put on the back. We do all that printing for them. They were using an outside source, so we just went, hey, why do that? If we can shorten the time it takes, even as far as we've got clients that do that have things embroidered into certain items, and okay, we don't do that in-house, but we manage the whole process for them, so it's nice and easy. It's just one shop, and it's just one way of doing it. So it's just the approach we've taken up. We're not unique in that, but we certainly perhaps go to the extreme. We like clients with B2C and B2B, because again, they tend to have quite strong and difficult demands. It's been good. I'll grab you in a second if that's all right. Does anybody else have any questions? No? Oh, Rosie's got a question.
You came up with some ideas of customization and personalization. If my budget only allowed me to do one thing, to delight my customers, what would you suggest?
That's a good question.
Sorry about that.
Personalization to a degree shouldn't cost anything. I would say do both. I mean, that's probably not the right answer, is it? But I would say customization is good, but personalization that gives the customer the wow factor. That's the unexpected. Some customers might be, I don't want to have to pick from 15 different options every time I shop on the website. So I'd probably say personalization, actually. You've got so much data these days about the customer on your website and on your platform. Getting that across to the customer makes that customer just feel this store, this process, they care about me, and I want to shop there again. At the end of the day, it costs a lot of money to get customers to your website. The last thing you want to be doing is selling them to them once and then they disappear off and go to your competitors. The best customer is a customer that comes back to you without you having to keep marketing to them. So I'd probably say personalization. Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody.